Venezuela, Sandunga, Ecuador, bilirrubina, y Uruguay con Paraguay, hermano con Costa.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the only, el mismísimo, the Spanish Master. Yeah. ¿Qué lo que, mi gente? ¿Qué lo que está pasando por ahí todo el mundo? Espero que se sientan muy bien. Welcome back to the show. And this time, just want to introduce this podcast with two guests that I'm going to have here talking in a minute. And but before I talk to you guys about the guests and all that, I want to talk a little bit about the sponsor for this podcast. And this one is I don't know if you're familiar with Ligopie, but Ligopie though, and I'm going to share this really quick here so you guys can see part of what I'm talking about. So Ligopie is a website that actually you can learn a new language with great TV, right? Discovering a brand new way to get to language fluency with this platform called Ligopie. And what does this does? Well, as you can see, you get to go to the customer reviews when you go to linguapie.com, and you can go /review to see what people are saying about this website in order to learn a new language. Ligopie reviews is, don't just take our word for it. It says 500 plus, people rank Ligopie as one of the best resources platform, and you name it. From 5, we got 4.8 on Trustpilot. So as you can see, a bunch of people are saying a lot of good things about how is this help them learn a new language. Okay, so go ahead and jump in linguapie.com /review so you can get to know more about this and what people are talking about. I'm going to talk to you guys more about what is this website is all about and how you can get a discount since like the 4th of July is coming up, Independence Day is coming up. You can get a good deal in order to get this website and use that as a resource to learn a new language. All right, so you can get started by putting your username and password here, creating an account with your Google Gmail, and then you take it from there. You can get more, you can understand more how this works and how you can apply that in your language learning, okay? It's just like watching movies or shows, your favorite shows, that you can basically stop them, pick up on the word that you don't understand, listen to the pronunciation, search the word, vocabulary word, and then you can go back to watching your show in the target language. It's an amazing resource. So I hope you guys like this and you support the cause. I'm going to put a link in the description, and let's go back to our main topic of the day. Yay. Effective learning language skills part 2. I don't know if you recall, but last time I spoke with two college students that were former student of mine, Mo and Maria. They are both like intelligent, bright, like really smart students, though they're now in college. Maria speaks more than 3 languages. I think she speaks 5, and Mo as well. So it's like they speak Arabico, francés, español, y otros idiomas. So if you want to get to know more about that, check back my previous effective language learning skill part 1, the Spanish Master podcast, so you can get to know more about this, and you can kind of follow along with this. So for this time, though, in part 2, I do have, and I'm pretty excited about this. I was working and making some modifications to the recording and all that. So we're going to have 2 guests. The first one, his name is Leo. Yeah. And the second one will be Millie. So we're going to be talking about different strategies and, how you can acquire a second language. If you're learning, I don't know, English, Spanish, French, any of those languages. So you're in the right spot because they're going to talk to you about how they got to point A to point B, learning languages. Both of them are pretty smart people. So let's pick up the brain and I'm asking them questions and stuff like that. So make sure that you guys subscribe, share this, and like and comment. And how make sure you ask questions. So like if you like something or you're have any, confusion or you want me to give you more tips and things of that nature, so just make sure you comment and in the section, the comment section, so we can come get this stuff going. All right, let's go right back to it. And this is the Spanish Master. See you in the next one and keep on listening and watching, okay? You got it. I'll see you in the next one.
As a junior in high school, graduated from high school in 2021. After that, I joined Howard University in fall of 2021 when I started. And then, I've been there ever since. I've had a lot of great experiences, met a lot of great people throughout my time in the United States. It's been a lot of fun for me. It's been a great cultural experience, a great learning experience. It's always a learning experience really every day, studying in a whole other country and learning every day about new cultural things and new habits that you never had an idea were actually a thing before. So that's a little bit of background for me.
That's cool. That's cool. Man, economic. I can't believe that you're already a senior, bro. Like, it's been a minute since we
Neither.
talked, but
Neither. I
but
promise you, it goes by so fast. I remember my first day growing up for moving there at school, and now I'm about to graduate. Actually, it's actually
yeah,
very cool.
that's cool. That's cool. But before we transition about, talking about some of the common challenges that you have or face through the transition, but right? What's some of the things that like make you stay motivated to go through, your goals and reaching your goals and all that? Oh, Millie's back. Millie's back. Yeah, this is much better, Millie. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Like, no, you're fine. You're fine. This is all good. People understand that sometimes technical problems happen, and it's all good.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just talking about like Leo. You're just talking about you know, his journal and he's a senior now. I can't believe that he's a senior. I was like, oh my god,
I
like I
know,
totally
right?
forgot that he's a senior.
I know.
So, man. All right, let's go back to the moment that you guys get to know me a little bit better because people don't know this. But I mean, we don't have to mention name if you don't want to or a specific organization. But when you first got to the place that I used to work, what was your first impression with the people that was around you, and can you talk about like because sometimes people can get intimidated or some of the challenges. Talk to me about some of the challenges that when you first came and how you stay motivated and kind of fulfill your dreams and fulfill your academic goals as far as like going to school because you were at the school for a short time, like for 2 3 years, and then now you're in college, almost senior now, and all that. Can you talk to us or to the audience about what is important for you to stay motivated in certain things and in order to achieve your goals and your dreams as far as educational goals? And anyone can talk. It's okay. Then it doesn't. This is for everybody.
I guess I can talk a little bit more on that. For me personally, I think one of the big factors that's kept me always motivated is really thinking about going ahead, whatever it is I'm learning. It's like understand the privilege really I have of the opportunities that I've been gifted to. Coming from Congo, Congo is it's a very poor country. It's a country where a lot of people are struggling to get access to basic needs, never mind education, just access to food and water. And just every day, when you wake up in the morning and you get to go to class and you get to do things like going to play some basketball, doing something, and just understanding that these are things that are like that I haven't had to work for, but it's a privilege and it's a chance, and I'm lucky to be able to even have those opportunities in the first place. The acknowledge that I have those opportunities and making the best of them, I take them sometimes as a responsibility for me, even for the people that are not able to have those opportunities but that would want to, and tell myself, okay, there are people out there that are probably smarter than me, that are probably kinder than me, that are probably better people than me, that do not have access to those things. And so for myself, I think that it's a responsibility that, oh, not only to these people, but if you're a Christian, obviously to God as well, to do the best with what you have been given and the opportunity you have actually been given, because it's a privilege to have an education, and understanding that privilege and doing good on it is something that I always tell myself every day, so that I can keep myself motivated and I can keep giving 100% of myself to whatever it is I'm dedicating myself to. Understanding that this opportunity is something that's very rare for a lot of people in the world. And it's always kept me motivated, but also not only that, also thinking about my parents, thinking about my mother who sent me here when I was 16, and telling herself, I'm her only son, so sending your only son in the other side of the world to study, because that's where the better opportunities are, and understanding that time out and telling yourself that because of those opportunities, it's important for me to actually do good on that, because my mother herself is sacrificing herself, my parents themselves sacrificing themselves for me to be able to get those opportunities. And so acknowledging those two different facets, the fact it's a privilege and the fact that somebody sacrificed themselves, my parents sacrificed themselves for me to be here, it's always kept me, going, kept me motivated, even when things were tough, when things were going as I wanted to tell myself I have to keep pushing forward. If not for myself, for the people that made it so I can be here.
100%, 100%. This is, you mentioned a couple of stuff that are making me thinking and wondering, because like as a ESL teacher and Spanish teacher, I work with students who are all over the place, and I noticed that some of the immigrants that come to America, they have a hunger and this huge desire to do better, and you see that there's a group of students that they don't care, but it is important to kind of understand why you're doing what you're doing in order to get what you want. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it, right? You're not going to have that motivation that you're talking about. Specifically, when there's a lot of things on the line, like your parents sacrifice so much for you to have this opportunity. Why to waste the time? Why to just fooling around and things like that? I mean, I get it. Teenagers they like to experiment and do things, but it's not all about just waste your time. You have to kind of have a time and make sure to use your time wisely too as well. So I know, Millie, we cut you off or something happened, but you were talking and then all of a sudden you came back. Now, can you, if you want to introduce briefly yourself? And we're just talking about the first question is, what are some uncommon challenges the language learning space, and how can they stay, motivated? I know that some of you, well, you obviously speak, the language pretty well, but I'm pretty sure that language is not the only challenge that you face when you came to America here. As far as I can, I remember there's other cultural differences that you can kind of mention as a challenge. But go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself again? Because I don't think that we got it the first time, and then you can talk about what's your motivation and all that.
Okay. Sorry again. My connection just dropped, so I disappeared. But I hope now it's better. So Crystal Millie, as I was saying, but you can call me Millie or Crystal, whatever.
I like Millie. Millie.
Yes. I'm from the DRC, same as you, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and I am an architecture student at university. So yes, to tackle the challenges, well, there were a lot of challenges as a student coming from another country and another culture on another continent. But I guess one of them, or one of the most obvious for me, was language for sure. Because even though I started learning English before, being for the first time in contact with English speakers, like native English speaker, was a bit intimidating. And as pretty perfectionist that I am, I had a hard time, just going for it and just speaking with them, because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to say this? Is this going to be the correct way to say this or that? So it was a bit challenging for me to just start talking to people and just make friends or anything like that. So the first couple of months I was probably by myself almost all the time, and or at least I was pretty quiet, so not really talking to anyone, just maybe a few, hi, how are you, but not like fully engaging in it. But then, when you, as you were saying, you like understand why you are going like there or why you're doing what you're doing, it gives you kind of this motivation and this this eagerness, like, okay, I'm here to study. My parents, as Leo was saying, are sacrificing themselves for me to be here. It's not like I shouldn't take it for granted, so I have to do something about it. So I was like, okay, yeah, it's not the end of the world if I make a mistake. It's part of the learning process, it's part of the learning journey. So yeah, I guess with that fire in me that started, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Doesn't matter, and we'll go from there. So yeah, knowing why you're there for, and remembering why you are there. So that's yeah, probably it.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So you mentioned that you were like by yourself and all that, but then your older student, started to talk a little bit more. So going to the second questions, can you share some of the strategies for practicing language skill that you use that kind of start working for you as far as like practicing the language with the native speaker, Americans here that get you going? So what some of the things that you guys both start like, strategies that you use? Because when just like you guys, when I first came to America, my English was super bad. I mean, still I'm struggling, all right? Sometimes I have to do certain things, but one thing that helped me a lot was listening to the music and watching movies, changing the subtitles and listening to a lot of audiobooks and things like that. That helped me a lot to increase my vocabulary. So what's some of the things that you think that have, helped you a lot in that aspect?
You or you want me to go?
Oh, Leo can jump in that one because he already
Sure,
talked,
sure.
and then you can take it too if you have something to say too as well. I
Okay,
know
yeah.
Leo listen to a lot.
No,
No,
no.
go ahead, go ahead, go
Yeah,
for it,
yeah,
go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, I guess I'll go then. Yeah, so as you said, I think for me it's been a lot of watching TV, watching shows. I remember even back when I was in Congo, when I was first just like learning English in general, like learning English at school, obviously. I learned it for almost every single year I've been at school in Congo, but also um, whenever I'm watching shows or whatever I'm watching TV shows and I know that they're English or they come from America, I always put them in English. I remember when I first started watching Fresh Prince of Bel Air. At first I was watching it in French.
Will Smith.
But oh, I you actually changed the language. I'm changing the language. And I put it in English. And it was so much better in English because it was the original voice actors and the original voice and everything fit. And I was like, yes, this is good. I like that. And it actually helped me like pick up a lot of vocabulary, pick up a lot of language. And I think that's a very, very effective part because not only are you interested in what's going on, but you're also picking up actual vocabulary, actual words, and actual, languages and everything. Even for Spanish, I remember, when La Casa de Papel or Money Heist came out on Netflix in Congo. Everybody was
Oh
watching it.
yeah.
Everybody's talking about, Money Heist. And I was like, okay, like let me just put it in Spanish and have subtitles in English or in French, and I'll just watch it like that. It actually helped, like pick up like a lot of the language and pick up a lot of like the the pace at which they speak because Spanish speakers speak very fast.
That's right.
Especially in Spain, like I'm like, okay, what is going on? But actually, like having that pace every time I'm watching the shows and everything, it's actually a form of immersion itself because I'm not going to Spain obviously, but I'm still having a lot of the experience of like Spanish speakers and understanding how to speak Spanish. And understanding, like if there's a little bit of sayings that they said that I didn't get, and not understanding how they say that and why they say it and where it fits in the phrase, in the sentence, and everything. So that's actually very helpful. Just doing stuff that is interesting for you at the same time, and making the language just interesting and just making it fun. Outside of classroom learning, doing your own research, doing your own stuff, being interested in yourself in the language. If it takes, changing your language settings in your phone, then do it. Or going on social media and like going on the Spanish side of social media, then do it as well. Because not only is it going to be interesting, but you're gonna pick up a lot of like language habits as well. I think it happens a lot for a lot of people, and I think that's what works for me personally for both English, which I speak now pretty fluently, and Spanish, which obviously I speak to a lesser degree, but I still kind of like get a lot of the stuff, and I can still I'm able to understand at least 50% of the conversation in Spanish.
That's fire. That's fire. So, yeah, I can't remember, but you speak more than two languages. I mean, three. You're polyglot then. So you speak French. What other language you speak? Obviously, English is. You're doing fantastic, man. Your vocabulary. You sound more eloquent now. I have to kind of be careful what I say here because I don't. And yeah, so it's Spanish, right? And then we got French,
Yeah.
English.
So yeah, French,
Is
English,
it,
Spanish, Lingala from Congo, and then I'm also learning Swahili in university.
gosh,
Actually, I'm done learning Swahili in university, so I know a bit of Swahili now. Obviously, not
nice.
a lot, not as much as Spanish either, but like I still have like I know like the
That's
language and
great.
stuff.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So how important is immersion in the language learning process? Now that I know you mentioned you mentioned one of my favorite shows of all the time. This like I remember watching the Principle of Bel-Air and
Mhm.
Spanish, and then when I watched it for the first time in English, it's like it was much better. It was 10 times much better because I couldn't
Yeah.
like the translation. There are a lot of things that are loose in translation when you're talking in a different language, and then you translate
Mhm.
that. But then when you're listening to the original like language, it's like
Mhm.
it's better. Like in my opinion, you can get the whole essence of whatever it is that is being said or whatever you're. So it got me into so bad that I have to watch the whole thing again, all over again in English. Yeah, I watched the whole. So yeah, I binge watched that, and then like, man, this is great. Like I understand what. Oh, now I understand that joke. Oh, now. So I was kind of
Mhm.
putting the puzzles together and all that. So how important, in your opinion, you think it is immersion into the language that you're trying to learn?
Mhm.
And what are some of the practical ways that learners can immerse themselves in the language and the target language? I know you
Mhm.
mentioned something about Spanish and talked
Mhm.
about like some because people don't realize technology is a huge tool that they can use in order to learn language nowadays. Because back when I was starting learning English, and I there were no such a things as Duolingo or Babbel or whatever it is. I mean, there are so many things now with technology. Using AI too, as well as another tool that people tend to use a lot
Mhm.
to learn language. Um, but anyways, I was just curious to see like what's your opinion in immersion? Because there is a whole like scientific like um, research thing that I was reading on immersion, language immersion. You don't necessarily have to immerse into a language to get to know that language, but it's always important to understand the more immersed you are in that particular language and culture, the faster your vocabulary and cultural awareness is going to be, and you're going to grow faster in that area. So,
Yeah,
um,
definitely. Actually, I think immersion is like one of the, if not the most important, ways to effectively like learn a language and to effectively like not just learn it but master it. I think after a certain age, it's almost impossible to be completely fluent in the language.
yeah.
But if you want, like at least having the accent and stuff like that, but if you want to be able to like really know the language, you be able to hold a conversation with a native speaker and hold your own, you know, immersion is like the like most important way in which you can actually do that. Um, and thankfully, because we live in an era of technology, there are a lot of ways in which you're able to do that. You don't have to actually catch a plane ticket to Spain or to the Dominican Republic, even though we love it, or Argentina or anywhere else in the world to be able to immerse yourself and be there for like 6 months at a time to actually be able to pick up, another language. You can do that from the comfort of your own home these days. So, you mentioned Duolingo. Personally, I think Duolingo is great not to learn the language, but to build on the skill that you already have on the language and just, have every day remembering actually what you already know about the language so that even if you're not in an environment where, okay, there are no Spanish speakers around me, at least every day I'm getting some Spanish. I'm remembering some Spanish that I already know, and I'm building onto those skills. So I think Duolingo is great in that. But I think like a lot of mistakes people do is that they use Duolingo to actually learn the language, which I don't think personally it's a great way to do it. I remember I was trying to use Duolingo to learn a whole new language before. I was telling myself, this is not helping me at all. This is not doing anything. Right? But then I started using it for Swahili after I finished my Swahili curriculum here in university. And it was actually great. It was amazing because I was seeing some of the stuff I already knew, but I was like, okay, now I can keep like that stuff in my head instead of forgetting it. And I'm just sitting there and I'm not talking Swahili with anybody, and I just forget the language, right? Obviously, you mentioned watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Spanish, English. Yes, that's also amazing. Even if you watch something in English, if you put the subtitles actually in Spanish or in whatever languages that you want to learn, whether it's French or whatever, it's actually also going to help you. Now you're reading it as well, and now you see like the equivalent of English to Spanish in just like, if it's an idiom, or if it's just like it's saying, or the way sentences are structured. All the things are actually greatly, greatly helping. For me also, even sometimes it happens with languages you don't even want to learn. Personally, I watch a lot of anime, and I watch in Japanese, and then I have the subtitles in English. Now, I'm not going to call myself a Japanese expert either, but because I watch so much of it, right? Because I watch so much of it, now I pick up sometimes in some Japanese words, and I'm like, okay, I can infer what you said in that sentence because I heard that certain word, and because I know that context. And some people are like, okay, that character said that phrase. I've heard that phrase before, and I know what it means. I didn't even need to read the subtitles at all. And imagine how you would be able to do that while you're actually having classroom learning, or actually when you actually have a background of another language. It's really going to help like master the language, I think, tenfold. Instead of just going to class every day, just going to class is important, but also in your everyday life, just make sure you have a component of a language that you want to learn. And I think immersion is really like the most important way to do that.
100%, 100%. You just make me remember, like, my son, he's into anime a lot too, so he suggests me to kind of start watching this show, right? And all of a sudden, it's like, man, I'm just like you're saying. There are some times that, the characters in the anime are saying the certain words, and then you see the translation in English. It's like, man, I know that word. So that's part of like the language acquisition, because you relate that with the sound, or trying to kind of figuring things out, or the context of what's happening in the show, and you can figure out what they're saying, and then you can kind of understand. Yeah, things like that help a lot, 100%. So let's talk about like realistic roles, because sometimes people tend to like, oh no, I'm gonna go and learn Spanish or French or whatever language in an X or Y amount of time, but it's an ongoing situation. Like you cannot like say, okay, I'm gonna learn French in 6 months, and you're gonna be perfect and master the language right away, because it takes time, right? So as far as like making or setting roles, like what roles does setting realistic goals play in language learning, and how can we as a learners, right, language learner, can set realistic goals? Because everyone is different. So for what worked for me probably that's not going to work for you, and so on and so forth. So when you're setting goals, what's some of the things that goes through your mind? Like you say, well, I'm learning Swahili now, so I know that I'm super busy because I'm going to college, I'm a senior, I'm working, I'm doing this, and I can only study for a certain amount of time, which means that that's going to take me so long. So how you go about to set up some goals and expectations as far as like learning, and that doesn't have to apply only for language, because when you have stuff from college that you have to get done, you have to set up some goals, right? So that helps in other aspect of your life, not only just for setting up like goals for language learning. I don't know if it makes sense, but people tend to think about the metrics of SMART. It's one thing that we use in high school to teach the student how to set up goals and realistic goals, and how to set up some expectation for them to be successful academically. So I was just wondering, and any of you can answer that, how you go about to set up a realistic goal when it comes to language learning.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back to the previous question, because
Oh, Millie's back. I didn't realize that. I was just so engaged here that I just saw you that you got in. No, 100%. So I don't know if you recall, what was the question that we were, I'm so
It
sorry.
was
So
about immersion, the importance of immersion into
that's
a
right.
language.
That's right. All right, Leo, Leo was talking a lot about that, and go ahead if you want to give us your take, and we'll take it from there. Yeah, thank you for coming back.
Yes, yes, I have been here for a while, so I was just listening when Leo was talking. Yes, so yeah, as Leo was saying, immersion is really important, and luckily today we have the tools to do that, even though we're not physically in the place. In my research of learning new languages, I saw a video of somebody talking about how, when little kids grow up, the first thing they do uh, before learning how to speak is to listen. They listen a lot
Exactly. Yeah.
because, the parents talk to them, the environment talk to them, like people in the environment talk to them. And so
Correct.
with that, they are able to pick up things and then start talking afterward. So yes, with that, listening is what has been for me really like something that I've tried to do a lot to learn a new language, like music, watching stuff. And for me, it was mostly YouTube. I was on YouTube a lot. I would look for a subject I'm interested in, and I would watch the video in English, um, trying to understand what they're talking about because I'm interested in that subject or in that matter, and I want to learn about it, but like I'm doing it in English.
Yeah.
So that is something that helped me a lot. But another thing was mimicking, because again, kids mimic a lot. Like, when they see something, they try
Interesting.
it, they say it. So I would look for there's a person on YouTube I followed, and she would, say certain words or learn to teach certain word, and I will repeat it as she was saying it, like the way she said it. And even after I started learning I started speaking a bit fluently. When I hear somebody saying a word in a certain way and I like the way it sounds, I'm like, oh, I want to start doing saying it like that. So I will try speak talking and saying that word the way they said it, and that's how I learned a lot of words as well. Just repeating what people say, and trying to put that into a sentence or into a particular context. Um, Another thing that helped me a lot was I would, that's a bit embarrassing, but I would be by myself in my room and I will come up with questions, random questions, as if I was doing an interview, and I will try to answer, like as if I was
Oh,
talking to somebody, and I will do it in my room or
interesting.
yes, and that has helped me a lot be more comfortable with talking to people or talking in front of people in English. So there are many ways you can come up with, to learn a new language. But another one for me is reading because I love reading. So I will read books, um, maybe books I've already read in French that I already know, but I'll read it in English to just, learn the language, but also see, what's the difference in English versus French. So yeah, there's just so many things you can do to immerse yourself within the language. As you said, you don't have to be there physically, but you can do things with your phone or with your computer or whatever. So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, what you just said is to have a lot of validation. Look, when and even though it made me realize that that's what people do whenever they go to an interview. They go
Mm,
this stand themselves in the mirror and then go through the questions and they see what they do and they mimic in and making sure that
yeah.
they're confident when they're speaking. Because that's what's they, you know, I think it's a good idea. I never thought about that way for language learning purpose. So kind of cool. I like it. Um, awesome. So let's move on a little bit here. So the other question that we're just asking, this is question number 4, I believe. Just setting goals. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's important setting goals? Like, obviously, it seems like a lame question, but when it comes to language learning, you have to have like certain specific like goals in place. Otherwise, because I remember when I was going through college, uh, well, a little background, a little information about myself. You probably don't know that a lot, but when I was back in the DR, Dominican Republic. I was no one of those like top students, but one thing that I really enjoy was like different cultures and languages and things like that. So I was really good at picking up things really fast when it comes to language learning. So I was one of the, I don't want to say the top 10 in my class, but I was in between there, and I thought I was really good, right? So I took a program down there. I got in a scholarship down there that I was like learning English with people from Canada, and they were coming to our school, and you know, to teach those lessons and things like that, doing activities and camps and things like that. So when I you know, forward a little bit more, I got married and all that. I came to the state. Wanted to just, you know, go back to school and get my bachelor's degree in education and teach and all that. I had to take a test, and I thought I was really good at it. It's like, no, you have to go back and take like English classes and stuff because your you know, writing skills are really poor, or this and that. And I was like, what happened here? It's like, so I set up goals. Like, I have to get this stuff done. Like I give to myself like sometimes, you know, I say from that time, and you know, from that time I have to be able to pass those classes and be taking like college level classes, because I only have 4 years to finish this stuff. I don't want to get more, you know. And just like that, and less than 3 years though, and 3 years and a half, I got my bachelor's degree in Spanish education. So I took the test. I was able to get my license, and then well, right after that, I got the opportunity to go to Chile and do an internship too as well. I got a scholarship for doing so. Because of the goal settings, all I want to say is because of the goal settings that I set with my certain expectations that I had, it helped me to get to what I am right now. So it is important to set up goals, because if you don't set goals, you're gonna be like, you know, navigating everywhere from point to point, but with no destination. So you have to have some certain like goals and expectations. And I would just wonder what your thoughts are on that, and if you already have goals, do you see yourself in, you know, almost there kind of thing? Because I know, for example, Leo, he's a senior now. He's gonna be a senior. I can't wait to go to that graduation, even if you have to see it online. And then you, Millie, I know that you're, you know, focusing on studying and all that too. So how do you talk to me a little bit about that? Because a lot of the people that are listening are going to be teenagers that are going to be soon going to college, and some of them don't know what they want to do when they grow up. And we talked a lot about in our classes, like, hey, you have to have goals. You have to get goals, realistic goals. Even if it's like whatever, like if you want to be a barber, if you want to be an electrician, but you have to have certain goals, right? So anyhow, so any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you say Hermili can take it after me, but for me personally, I think it's important to you know yourself and know like what you're actually getting into. You know like the area in which you are, and like when I say the area, I mean like the area of learning, not the physical area of it. You know, knowing the area and knowing, okay, most people at that point in time know XYZ. For example, after a year of speaking Spanish, most people can hold a conversation with a Spanish speaker. Or after a year of speaking Spanish, most people know this aspect of Spanish. They know verbs, they know tenses, they know this, they know that. Just knowing yourself, knowing where you're at, knowing where you want to be at, and having a realistic timeline of where it is to get to that place, right? So you know where you want to be, and then you reverse engineer that thing into, okay, from then on, I know that I know to know this first, and to know this first, this first, and this first, because these are the essential components of a language, or the essential components of Spanish or Swahili or whatever that I want to know. I'm not saying I practice that, but I think that's the most effective way to do it, right? Do as soon as I do. But you know, and you know, just have, when you set those goals, make sure that they are, as you said, realistic, but in the sense that they allow you to be able to pursue the language in the way in which you want to do it, right? Because if you're not enjoying pursuing the language, you're not going to learn it effectively. If it becomes a chore, if it becomes a bore, you're going to start cutting corners. You're going to find ways to reduce the time in which you're spending learning that language. And so by allowing yourself to give yourself enough time and enough forgiveness to be like, okay, by that time, as long as I'm able to do that, everything is fine, everything is okay. I don't need to start fluently be able to speak with somebody from Madrid in 2 weeks. This like it's fine if you're not able if you don't know any words still after 2 weeks, it's okay. As long as by in 1 month or in 2 months you already know the basic tenses, you're fine. But just every day get 1% better and just keep going through that journey as well, right? So
Yeah.
make sure that you don't really stress yourself out, that you don't, put pressure or undue pressure on you. Unless if it's at school. Of course, it's at school, you only have the pressure of like the grades and everything. So that's another story.
Right.
But when you do it for yourself and you don't just do it for a grade, not only is it going to be better and it's going to be easier for you to learn, but also the goals in which you're going to give yourself are always going to be, you're going to be so much more motivated when you actually realize you did it. And it's going to feel so good that when okay, like I told myself in 1 month, in 2 months, I will be able to do that, and I actually know how to say that in the language. Yes, that felt so good, you know. So, being a little forgiving with yourself, but also, um, knowing yourself and knowing where it is that you want to, be. Yeah, I think those are some of the important parts. To have some realistic goals in the language learning process, at least from my experience. And if Blue is here,
100%.
she can take that actually.
100%. Yeah. So being a specific, you got to measure your goals. You got to, also like it have to be relevant to you. You have to put a time also in that. That's what SMART is all about. That's what it's like SMART means. But some of the things that I talked a lot in my classes, for example, you have to have fun, enjoy with what you do, and otherwise it's gonna be very painful too. So obviously you got to have the motivation, the desire to do things, right? You have to have the system. Be patient with yourself, but ultimately, if you don't have fun with it, it's gonna be a pain in the butt because why I'm doing this if I don't really like it, or I have a motive behind it. So just like you were saying, you have to kind of, be mindful of that and trying to kind of have fun with it too, as well, like I would just explain right now. I don't know if is Millie. She just all right. Well, I have a couple more questions, and then we're gonna wrap things up here. There are a couple other questions that I wanted to ask, but they already actually answered those, like talking about how we can use technology to enhance your language experience. You talked about Duolingo, talked about watching movies and all that. So I don't think it's relevant to ask that one more time. But and also like what are some of the effective techniques for improving vocabulary retention, expanding your own vocabulary? You talked about that a little bit more when you mentioned like watching shows and all that, and putting the subtitles in the music in the movies and things like that. So the last couple of words. So this is an important one. I think it is really important. So how can learners overcome fear or anxiety when speaking in a foreign language, specifically in the society or in a real life situation? And I think Millie was talking a little bit about that because sometimes, because we don't have the same accent or the same like vocabulary or eloquence level, we tend to like, oh no, I don't want to talk because I don't want to sound like, the person that doesn't know what is talking about. But I think if we break like our shells and then start talking, people are going to be good. If they're good enough, they're going to say, hey, I think you mean this. Because in Spanish, and I do that in my classes, if people are talking and they say something ungrammatically incorrect, I'll say, oh, you mean that, right? And so they will say, yeah, that's it. Instead of like putting people down. Because that's why one of the reasons why people don't want to talk, because they feel like if they made a mistake, whatever it is, people are gonna like put in a finger and then they're gonna judge them and things like that. But I don't know if you ever had like a situation like that where you can kind of talk to the audience, like what was like basically the question is how can learners overcome fear and anxiety when speaking a foreign language, specifically in real life situations in our life?
I think personally this is an amazing question because I think that's a lot of issues that people deal with, especially when they try to throw themselves into a language, right? I think what's important is that you need to don't be afraid to embarrass yourself, right? Because it's going to happen. You're learning. This is learning. Like when you learn, you're going to say something that's wrong. You're going to be wrong. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to say a word wrong. You're going to use the complete wrong tense, the completely wrong verb, the completely wrong sentence. Or you're going to say something that you don't actually mean because you understand the language is different, because the idioms are different. Sometimes something that can mean, oh, you're nice or you look good in English, and then in your head you translate it literally to Spanish, and it means a whole other thing. Like, don't be afraid to make those mistakes in front of people. I remember one of the things, like when I was learning Swahili in class, a lot of times, the reason why people didn't really want, or people weren't, I guess, performing as well into in the oral stuff or in class, when they're sitting in class in the middle of the thing in the class, and they want to talk, they want to say something, is that they're scared to say something wrong. But if you're scared to always, like, if you never want to be wrong, you never want to learn. If you always just want to be right, then where's the actual part where you're learning, right? Because if you already know everything, then you're not really learning anything. So just don't be scared to go out there and like embarrass yourself and say something that's wrong, and have people correct you all the time. I think that if people correct you all the time is good, because now you're learning more and more and more. Right? Obviously, it's never fun to always be wrong. I'm not saying always be wrong. I'm just saying, even if the part that you are right, for everything that you don't know, don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to say, I don't know how to say that. How do I say this? Don't be scared to actually just go ahead and throw yourself in there and just say a sentence that you have in your head, even if you're not 100% sure it's right. Because there's a there's a lot of chance that, somebody that knows, for example, that knows Spanish in class can say, oh, don't you actually mean that? I'm sure you meant that. And yeah, that's what you meant. And now okay, next time, I don't know how to say that way. But if you're never willing to go ahead and make that mistake, I don't think that those sort of solutions would happen, right? I'm sure not everybody in your class is probably as receptive or probably as talkative as you would like to. And sometimes it's because people are scared to just, I don't want to say something, and then everybody's going to be like making fun of me, or the professor's going to be like, oh, you were wrong, and people just don't like being wrong in general, and that's normal. But as it comes to language learning, I think it's important to allow yourself to be wrong and allow yourself to make mistakes and to fail certain things, just so you know that next time I can do this and I can do that. At least for me, I think, just throwing yourself in the water is the best way to swim.
That's right. That's right. I remember when I first, we were at church, and it was my first week here in America, and well, I haven't had a lot of contact with people from Mexico, right? From Mexico. And there was this lady and sitting down, and she was kind of sad. And I would go and approach her and said, hey, why do you look so guapa? So guapa, the word guapa, this is a vocabulary word in Spanish, right? It means that, and our vocabulary in South America and Caribbean in general, it means like you're sad or you're down or a little bit angry, a little bit of mixed emotions, right? But I didn't know that people in Mexico, when you say the word guapa, means like good looking, right? Oh my gosh. When I say that, and she look at me like, oh, brother, but I thought you were married. It's like, and I think that it says something inappropriate here, without even knowing. It's like, and she's like, no, she said, no. I thought you were married. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. No, I was just trying to say, why do you look so sad? And I used the word guapa, and it's no. And I hear from Mexican people, when you say someone is guapa, it's because it's good looking. And so from now on, from that end on, I learned my lessons. So like, you know what? I have to kind of look it up in the dictionary. And I'm talking about Spanish is my first language. And I was talking in Spanish to someone, and I messed up so bad that I was like, well, there's a lot of things that I have to learn here. And that's when I started like, okay, I have to kind of, even in my own language, I have to kind of like understand different dialects in different countries. So when I went to Chile, I got to learn more about people from Chile that I didn't know. When I went to Costa Rica, same thing when I went to Panama, although Panama is very similar to the Dominican Republic in certain aspects. And when I went to Madrid, that was crazy because it's a whole different level down there. But I wouldn't want to talk about all that anyhow. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of areas that we can grow even in our own language. Right? So it's always, it's not a never-ending process. Learning is important. You're gonna mess up, but it doesn't mean that you have to. You feel embarrassed. You're gonna do it. You're gonna mess up, but you have to keep on going. All right. Yeah. So
and to your
Billy,
point,
go ahead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To your point, unless you're learning a language like maybe Italian, but even with Italian, when you're learning a language like English or Spanish, you have so many English speakers and Spanish speakers, and depending on the context, as you were saying, there's certain words or certain like how they say things. So maybe narrowing like which maybe accent or which country you want to focus on in learning a language can help as well. For example, I am learning Spanish as well. I'm not as good as Leo, but I think I want to like focus my learning to maybe Mexico or Spain, and then learning how they say things and the expressions. That's also a way to like learn a bit quicker than if you have to just learn Spanish in general. Because as you're saying, when you talk about guapa in Mexico, it's different from what you meant. So that's also a good way to narrow it down to a country or a region, and then learn their ways, their idioms, and things like that. So
yeah. It's important to know that there's a lot of idiomatic expression that from one country, the context with what you're speaking or whatever can mean something differently than another. So, and that's why we normally tend to get confused. But as long as you have the basics and the foundation, it will be all right. Because then if you messed up, if you made a mistake, that person, if it's good enough, obviously is gonna tell you, like I was told, no, it's like this, and then from now on, you're gonna get to know and understand better, and that way you don't make the same mistake all over. So, but we're getting here to a close really quick. But the last question I want to ask you, though, so how can learners maintain their motivation and enthusiasm for learning any language? Can be Spanish, can be French, can be Swahili, but in the long term, because people tend to set up goals and have this motivation and everything, but then they do it for a week or two. If it doesn't work, they drop down they feel discouraged. They feel like, no, I'm not good enough. Or so what type of like message would you tell them to those who are like, because every person is different, and you cannot compare you to somebody else as far as the learning process, because it's different. Some people are visual learners, some people are more like auditory, and some people. So it is a lot of different things here, right? So you can't compare yourself ever with someone. Because, for example, I have people that have been blessed to like learn quickly than me in certain aspect of certain things, and I'm sometimes like, man, but I have the same time that we came the same time, and he's like learning that and that. So I have to understand that we have different skills, different style of learning, and that everyone is going to take more time than the other. So what message would you give to those who are trying to embark themselves in the language learning, to don't discourage themselves. So they can do as far as if they have like a why behind it, and as far as they're patient with themselves and have a goal and some expectation for themselves.
Well, I would say that learning a language is a set of skills, and if you want to master it, you have to practice it. You have to keep doing it, and remembering the why is really important. Like, why did I want to learn this language? Is it for school purposes? Is it for work? Because I want to go work in that country, or I just want to visit, or I don't know. It's just like the why is really important. Remembering, why you started that journey, because it's not going to be easy. Definitely not. And as Leo was saying before, like, jumping into the water is scary. But you have to try to just remember why you started it, and you have to keep practicing, because again, it's a set of skills: the reading skills, listening, speaking, and of course there are things that you learn like grammar or vocabulary or whatnot, but you have to keep doing it, because if you want to maintain it, that's how you maintain it, that by doing it. And if not, then you're just gonna lose it. So remember why you want to do it, and just do it. And yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Oh, that's good. That's good right there. Yeah. Maybe some words from Mr. Leo.
Yeah, definitely I agree with Millie. Remembering the why you do the thing. For long-term motivation, it's always important to keep an eye on um having the actual purpose of where you're learning the language, right? Sometimes people learn language for ego or just because they're interested in culture or stuff like that. That in itself is a way to motivate yourself because
Yeah.
you have a passion for it. You want to do something, and you feel like it's gonna make something. It's gonna give you something more. Maybe as a person, maybe it's gonna make you more employable. Maybe it's gonna do this or that. That's also a way to keep yourself motivated because you have that end goal. You're like, okay, I know I can't do it right now, but if I keep going, I'll be able to, do something out of it in the future, right? And I think that's what's going to keep you also motivated, having purpose, not just in language learning, but in everything you do, right? Having purpose for actually what you're doing. Even me, as I'm learning economics, I'm saying it's not always easy. And you're sitting in class and you're like, what? Like, what's going on? You're sitting from your homework. Like, I have no idea what's going on. Let me just not do it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, like I'm doing this for an actual reason, and this is actually going to serve me. This is actually going to help me. Even if I don't see it now, I know I will see it later. And it's kept you motivated, it's kept you going over the edge and pushing your limit more and more into certain things, right? And even if you feel like you've hit your limit sometimes in terms of things, and you tell yourself, okay, there's nothing else that I can actually do because I know that this is where I start. Ask for help, ask for something, and keep yourself, and keep yourself, keep your eyes set on the actual goals that we talked before. We're saying that you can that you've actually set for yourself. Right? I think this goes back into the question that you talked about realistic goals as well. Um, you know, so I think those go conjointly because having those realistic goals will help you keep your motivation, it'll help keep you, grounded and help keep you, looking forward to what it is that you want to do immediately and in like a year or two in the language. So as long as you have purpose for learning the language, I think that you're always gonna have a certain motivation, a certain drive to keep learning that language. What it is that you want to be a social worker or whatever, and you're learning Spanish or English, those is still important. When you want to be a lawyer,
Yeah.
or whether you want to close a deal and as a whoever CEO or whoever, and maybe the person you're speaking to is a Spanish person or a Mexican person or an Argentinian person. Having another language helps. You never know when it's going to pop up in your life, right? And I think those are some of the important factors. I think to have
Yeah.
language to
I also
Yeah.
wanted to add, sorry, we did, I remember that is also be accountable to somebody, or if you have
Oh, have like a
someone,
buddy,
yes,
like a
if you have
mentor.
a
Yeah.
mentor or friend who's learning the language with you, or somebody who already speak the language you want to learn, but like have someone that can help you or motivate you to learn, to keep learning. Because it's
Yeah.
easy to say whatever, it's just me, and nobody cares. But if you have someone to whom you can be accountable for, you can, keep going. They can, if on the days where you feel like, I don't want to do this, they can be like, hey, have you practiced today, or have you listened to a podcast, or have you watched something today in the language that you want to learn? And that also can help you keep on track and continue learning. So yeah, find somebody who already speaks the language or who is learning the language as well, and be accountable.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Well, but this has been great. Is I think we have good stuff here. Hopefully, the people who listen to this are watching on YouTube. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and you can share if you like this content. Go ahead and type the Spanish Master and YouTube. You're gonna find me there. I'm working in a setup with like videos to teach. Like I'm gonna start from scratch though, because I have a website now, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start teaching the ABCs. I'm gonna take it from the bottom.
learn.
So I already have a few lessons there. I'm gonna public those as soon as I can here. It's been kind of crazy because we just finished the school year, and now I'm a little more relaxed. But still, those who have like family commitments and other things, it's hard to kind of find some time. But I really appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for being part of this. Like I say, this has been great, and I think we got pretty good, like covered the whole thing, like tips for effective language skills. There are a lot of good stuff here. So, by the way, I don't know, Millie, if you still remember this. Do you remember this thing?
Oh,
Yeah. I used to hang it up, but for some reason it just like detached and then broke the whole thing. So, but I still
Oh.
keep. Yeah, I was super sad because it's like, how can I cannot poke a hole in this stuff and have a little something there. So I still have that here. Yeah, I remember you guys all the time, 100%. So we really definitely had a good time, and it's a matter of the fact that I don't think that there was no other group cooler than your guys' group, okay? Because I've been going, my kids still there. Oh, we had Eli still there, and whenever I go, I see the students, and I said, hey, how's it going? And everyone's like down a little bit or whatever. And I mean, I don't want to say this is all bad, but things have changed. You know what I mean? And I definitely like miss you guys and all that. Like I was saying with Maria and Mo, I mean, we have to still, at some point in our life, get together and do a reunion or something like that, to kind of remember those good times. And I know that sometimes life gets in the way, but I want to be able to be in you guys' life too. I consider yourself like we're brothers and sisters, child of God. So, but thank you so much for taking the time, like I said before. I have to. I think I don't want to edit anything. I'm just gonna put this stuff like it is. Just put the subtitle. This is great. So
With me coming in and out.
it will be alright. People don't care. People like if the content is great, they're gonna listen to it and they're gonna comment and stuff. So the YouTube channel is small. I know it's the point is to have consistency. I'm trying to kind of upload at least once a week. But I mean, the point is to have something up there to get the people realize that there's not only one place. There's a lot of places all over in the world, and people have to kind of know that it's important to get to know other people, cultures, and stuff. And that's my point by doing what I'm doing right now. And if it becomes something big, so be it. For example, if PB wants to sponsor me, go ahead and do it now.
Yeah.
People have been asking me like, what do you drink all the time? I said, well, that's my shake. I'm just getting my shake. I guess I'm trying to lose some weight and stay in shape. Trying to exercise and all that. And remember, it's really important to have good habits, and part of that is like exercise and taking care of your mental health and all that fun stuff. But all right, it's everything for me. I don't know if you have anything to say. Do you guys want to share your social with people so they can reach out if they have questions, or they can kind of comment in my comment section, and they can, if you guys, it's up to you. Now is the time if you wanna share your social media or whatever, because this is gonna be YouTube, guys. You guys are gonna be famous.
I'll give you my LinkedIn, but that's how far as I'll go.
There you go.
I'll give you my LinkedIn, and then whoever watches it and if you're interested in joining Howard, for example.
Yeah, there you go.
Let me get this thing. Yeah. Shoot me a text, shoot me anything. I'm very open to anything. I like to talk to people, especially people that want to join Howard, that want to join HBCUs, be part of our little family. But yeah, if
well, Leo, what group are you in? And what type of group or clubs you're involved in with the university there? I know that you're like involved in some groups and things.
Yeah. I'm in Moto United Nations. I do that. I've been doing that in freshman year actually. I'm vice president, funnily enough now.
Whoa.
Yeah, I just got nominated this year, so it's gonna be my senior year's gonna be I'm vice president for the first time.
Let's go.
I'm in a couple economics clubs, and I'm in a Swahili club as well. So those are the things I've been doing. The past also 2 years, I've done Alternative Spring Break, which is community service at Howard. Very big program, More than 1,000 students go every year. Last year, we had like 2,000 people go. I was part of the steering committee. So that's what I've been doing. It's been very fulfilling. So,
I'm gonna vote for you. I'm gonna vote for you if you decided to like run for Senate or government or whatever.
Yeah, if they let immigrants run, But yeah, definitely, it's been fun.
Unfortunately, we cannot become like. Well, I think the part of the line, the United States, is supposed to be born and raised here to be. But if you think about that, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he came from out of nowhere. And he became the governor in California. So why can't we, right? So we can do it too. So anyhow, Millie, do you want to share anything? Any last words? And
I'll give you my LinkedIn as and my email as well. So
There you go. There you go.
any
You can put it down in the
students,
description when you see the podcast later on, and they can kind of reach out that way too as well.
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they have any questions, yeah. But thank you. I am feel really honored that you have
Yeah. That was super
asked
cool.
us to do this.
Let's see. Let's
Yeah, I'm really honored.
see.
Thank you so much.
Once again, this is the Spanish Master Podcast. Thank you so much for joining this one, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Bye.
All right.
Trae la sandunga, Ecuador, bilirrubina y Uruguay con Paraguay, hermano con cosa.
I am a rising senior, so I'm about to be a senior. I'm an economics major and African studies minor at Howard University. I came to the US in 2019, same time as Melly. I came